took Minnow out for tonight. It's late. We went about 10 feet in the snow. It makes a difference with the knee rover if there's snow down. Don't have as much traction to push and the wheels kind of gather snow. So thankfully, Minnow at about 4.5 years old, he knows the ropes. He gets right to looking for a pole or something upright to pee on, and so we could get back in. So he did that. That was awesome. And I checked my mail, and I got something from my dad. My dad writes in all caps. He was an iron worker, built I-beams for large industrial buildings, among other things. So I was very, very excited. I got this history. Maybe if I take this cover off. Life history. Curtis Cook. Should see on there. Hard worker. He really is. He taught me everything in terms of applying yourself. If you're going to do something, you're going to do it right. Why do it? Don't do it otherwise, you know. So I flipped through it, and took me through memory lane for sure, plus some addition. Apparently, my older sister Debbie, her son Curtis, he has a son, Connor. So this is me, my brother, and my younger sister growing up. That's got to be Easter, I'm thinking, with the matching little pink dresses and ringlets. Very, very nicely put together. And this is Kurt and Lou. It talks about, come on Lou, I'm trying to get a good look at you. Beauty. Talks about, well, you know, a lot of these are great stories. Ivy. Ivy would be my dad's mother. So that's Ivy. That's so hard to see. Anyway, Ivy and Rudolph married May 9th, 1916. Dad was the 7th child and the first boy. And his dad died when he was 7. And let's see. Says, my story begins on the floral ranch in Torrey. He was born May 27th, 1930. His parents are Rudolph Cook and Ivy Curtis Cook. His siblings are Clella, Phyllis, Zella, Koa, Utana, Riadel, Nidra, Wade, and Wadeen. He lived in Fruita, Utah. Let's see. And I was talking about his grandparents. Grandparents lived in Fruita, Utah, and sold their farm and moved to Price. Let's see. Says he loved to visit Grandma Curtis because she always gave me graham crackers with Caro syrup on it. My dad's name was going to be Rue, R-U-E, Rue Cook. And Grandma Curtis told my mother she would give her a cow if she would change my dad's name to Curtis. So it was changed from Rue to Curtis Rudolph Cook. So the what is it, the birth certificate was already filled out. So I think that she crossed that out and put Curtis instead of Rudolph on a slant. uh, Talks about working all summer for his mother's brother, Uncle Milland. He had a farm. He worked for him all summer and earned $4. He bought a pair of shoes with that money. He ordered from a catalog. Says his father was a rancher. He owned the Floral Ranch, home and property in Torrey. Floral Ranch is now in the borders of Capitol Reef. It sits on the west side of Capitol Gorge and was about 160 to 200 acres in size. Miners from the Henry Mountains, located to the east, would oftentimes stop by the ranch while traveling west. They always arrived by horse, mule. Travelers were always fed, and when no one was home, the door to the ranch would always remain unlocked to let strangers help themselves. That's the way it used to be. In the winter, we lived in Torrey so we could go to school. In the summer, we lived and worked at Floral Ranch. There was no electricity at the ranch, and the bathroom was outside. Bathing was done in one of two ways depending on the season. In the summertime, we would skinny dip in the Fremont River. There was always a bar of soap along the bank. The boys and girls would bathe at separate times. In the wintertime, we would bathe once a week in a tub full of hot water that was heated on the stove. The oldest child got to bathe first, then down to the youngest. I received one pair of Levi's when I started school each year, and one pair at Christmas. They were never washed. It was thought that washing them would destroy them. I usually went barefoot in the summertime. E.K. Hanks built the ranch house in 1878. I remember it as a single story, L-shaped, log cabins with 3 rooms. Kitchen, living room, and bedroom. My parents slept in the living room, and there was a bed in the kitchen. They used to grow alfalfa in the field-like areas, and the garden was behind the house. My father would sit on the hill and wait for deer to come down into the alfalfa fields. I would sometimes go with him and sit right behind him. He would shoot a deer as necessary for meat. There was a big cottonwood tree by the house, and I had a rope tied around a branch for a swing. My father would tie deer and other livestock from the tree and butcher them. The meat was stored up high in the tree, away from animals, until it was needed. We also stored meat in the cellars. I would go with my father to switch the flow of water in the irrigation ditches to different alfalfa fields, gardens, etc. Pleasant Creek fed the irrigation ditch. As one ditch dried up, I would go along and pluck trout out of the ditch and onto the bank with a pitchfork. I thought this was the way that everybody fished. While living at the ranch in the summertime, our family would go to Torrey on Saturday nights to attend church in Torrey on Sunday. It took about 2 hours or more to drive the 21 miles from Floral Ranch to Torrey in our Model T Ford. There was usually outdoor dances in Torrey on Saturday nights. All the locals would come. There would be fiddlers, etc. My father could play the fiddle very well. My sister Utana and I carved our names in the red sandstone cliffs when we were kids. The National Park Service later removed a lot of the names when the Capitol Reef National Park was created. The old dirt road in the area had to be scraped after every storm to remove silt and debris, especially through Capitol Gorge. My father would start grading near the ranch with a team of horses hooked to a 3-foot-wide wooden scraper. People from other communities would start on the opposite end of the Capitol Gorge and work towards each other, where they would meet and have a big party. I remember helping grade the roads. While living at Floral Ranch, I rode a horse all alone on Tuesdays and Fridays along the old road to Capitol Gorge to get the mail. I was about 5 or 6 years old. The ride to the mailbox was about 6 miles round trip. My father loved to go exploring. I would go with him. We would saddle the horses and go exploring and camping for days at a time in what is now Capitol Reef National Park. We always found Indian ruins, mucky huts, mukihuts, and artifacts, baskets, tools, etc., but never collected them. I didn't see the point because I thought that was just a common sight everywhere. My father died in 1937. It was thought to be a stroke, but they don't know for sure. He was in bed, unable to move anything but his arms. Mother wouldn't let us kids near him for fear he would wrap his arms around us and literally squeeze us to death. He was only 41 when he died. Growing up, life was hard for everyone, especially after my father died. He worked hard to survive. We worked hard to survive. I was almost 7. Grandma Curtis helped tend the twins, Wade and Wadeen, 18 months old, while my mother tried to keep up the farm. She was milking cows and selling the milk. She raised fruit and sold it too. World War II came along and my mother was struggling to survive. In 1942, she went to Salt Lake City to work. She worked as a cook at Camp Kearns. Then she went on to be the head cook and dietitian for Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake. She worked there for 20 years. Mother married Dwayne Nebaker in 1946. They lived in her home on Jefferson Street in Salt Lake until the mid-60s when she retired. About 1961 or 62, the state of Utah purchased their property to construct a new freeway on-off ramp. They were paid $3,500, so they moved back to Torrey and bought a home that she owned until she died in 1990. My mother left that property to me and my brother Wade. We drew straws to see who would get the property, and I got the short straw. The home went to Wade. In the late 30s, after working so hard to try and keep the farm, my mother traded the Floral Ranch for a second home and property in Torrey. My younger siblings and I moved into the home. I was about 9 years old. In the summertime, I would sleep under the pine trees in the front yard. The trees were thick with branches, low to the ground, and it was hard for anyone to see me under there. The home was a two-story wood home. There were 2 bedrooms upstairs, one on each side of the stairway, without doors. There was a kitchen and living room downstairs and a cellar underground. The bathroom was outside. Sometimes my friends and I would walk 3 miles one way to Teesdale to get enough kids to play baseball. We would also party on Coyote Knoll, a hill just east of Torrey. We would build a bonfire and play games like kick the can. Occasionally, we would play in the Mookie huts located just east of Torrey. Raisins are the only food I don't like. My mother was a good cook and I liked anything she cooked. She made a lot of steak and potatoes. I loved the peach preserves she made. She made wonderful homemade bread and biscuits. I like most foods. I was 8 years old when I herded sheep alone on the east side of Boulder Mountain, which was a good day's ride by horse from Torrey. I would spend 2 or 3 months at a time on the mountain. This continued until I was about 10 years old. There was a general store in Torrey called the Chuck Wagon. It was the only store in town when I was growing up. I remember the owner taking a wagon to Richfield about once a month for supplies. It took him 2 long days to make the round-trip journey. Today it is an hour drive one way. On my birthday, my mother would let me have all the chicken eggs to take to the chuck wagon and trade for an all-day sucker or a penny. The big thing to do was watch movies. The nearest theater was in Loa. The movie and the round-trip ride cost 20 cents. For another nickel, I loaded up on popcorn. The movies played once a week, and you had to see them weekly because they were a continuing story. It was hard to come up with 10 cents, let alone 25 cents. While our mother was in Salt Lake working, our Torrey home burned to the ground. My older sister, Zella, saved my life for the first time that night when, after discovering the fire, went upstairs and threw me and the rest of the kids down the stairwell. My life was saved for the second time that night when a neighbor in Torrey for college break grabbed me from the roof right before it collapsed into the fire. Apparently, I was on top of the 2-story wooden structure in my underwear trying to put out the fire with a trickle of water coming from a garden hose. Everything was lost except for the clothes the family was wearing. After the fire, all the younger children moved to Salt Lake City to be reunited with our mother except for me. I stayed with Dawn and Clella Pace, my sister, at the Torrey Ranch until I moved to Salt Lake City in the spring of 1945. This is a picture of my dad with his sisters and his little brother. And he kind of looks like an old man. He's right. Sorry, he's right here. And that's probably pretty interesting growing up with a lot of sisters. I would imagine. I went to school in Torrey through 7th grade. The Torrey Schoolhouse was built in 1917 of red rock, which is common to the area. I played a lot of good basketball games on the 2nd floor. I went to Wayne High School for grades 8 and 9. I liked history and math. I didn't like English too much. I was 12 years old the first time I went outside of Wayne County. I went to Richfield to catch a train to Salt Lake City to visit my mother. While there, I was treated to an ice cream sundae at a soda shop. This was the first time I had ice cream that wasn't homemade, and it was the first time I saw a banana. I had read about bananas in school, and I determined they were really good under ice cream. At the age of 15, spring of 1945, I went to Salt Lake City permanently. I was there when World War II ended. I worked various jobs, including lagoon, amusement park, during summer vacation, butcher, usher in a movie theater, etc. When working as a butcher, I would work after school and on Saturdays. I made about $12 a week. I started school in Salt Lake City at Lincoln Junior High. I was in the 10th grade. High school grades 11 and 12 were completed at South High School. I graduated in 1948. In school, everyone was my friend. At South High, Verlin Boyack was my best friend. We have kept in touch for many years. Joe Rudman was another good friend, along with Ray Goodrich and Kermit Sessions. Joe Rudman went in the Marine Corps with me, but I never saw him after boot camp. When I was about 17 or 18, I went back to Torrey. I cut mine props, pine trees with about a 3-inch to 9-inch diameter trunk on the west side of Boulder Mountain near Jacobs Lake. I was camping out again. If you worked your butt off, dusk to dawn, you might make 30 a day. Me and 3 or 4 buddies that cut mine props never wanted to cook. We would always argue about whose turn it was. Our rule was that the one who complained about the cooking had to do the cooking. As a result, statements like yummy, burnt on the outside, doughy in the middle, just the way I like it, referring to sourdough biscuits, were common. Those biscuits never turned out. On occasion, I would drive to Salt Lake City to visit family. I had a 1937 Ford. On one of those trips, I was driving on Route 89, the old highway that was replaced by I-15, and noticed a tire passing me. I said to myself, man, that looks like my tire. The next thing you know, I was spinning circles on the highway. I wasn't hurt. I had a broken axle. It probably got broke going up and down the rough dirt road through Boulder Mountain. Every weekend, me and my buddies would drive from Boulder Mountain to Richfield for supplies. The old roads into Richfield, 60 miles from Torrey, were all dirt. Pavement didn't start until you entered Richfield. I was 18 when I met Rebecca Taylor on one of those weekend trips, a diminutive and charming young miss. She was working as an usher in the Richfield Theater, where I would usually see a movie before returning to Boulder Mountain the next day. Rebecca would see people in the theater with a flashlight. We dated occasionally, then I went back to Salt Lake City. She moved up there with her aunt, and then we dated more. Rebecca was born in Widstow, Widstoe, Utah, in March 23, 1930. After the federal government forced the farmers, ranchers off the land to make way for a national forest, Widstow became a ghost town. Rebecca's parents moved their family to Richfield. When I went to the Marine Corps in December of 1948, I went to boot camp in San Diego. After boot camp, I was stationed at Mare Island near San Francisco. Becky had moved to San Francisco to live with an aunt. I was out of the Marines after a year, but stayed in the reserves for 5 years. The Korean War broke out in May of 1950. I was working in Grand Central. I received notice that I was being called back to active duty in the Marines and would be going to Korea. Rebecca and I got married July 29th, 1950 in Salt Lake City, and by mid-August I was called to report to the Marines at Camp Pendleton. We were together 6 weeks before I had to leave for San Diego. I took the training again, and by December 1950, I was in Korea for 2 years. It was the coldest place I had ever been. In Korea, I remember walking along a ridge and hearing tree branches snap around me and somebody yelling at me, "Hey, John Wayne, that's you they're shooting at." I came home around September 1952, and Becky and I lived in Salt Lake City in an apartment over the Uptown Theater. It was later torn down to make the ZCMI Mall, and now it is the Center Creek Shopping Center. It's a great little picture. Uptown Theater, Secret Heart is playing. Is that Claudette Colbert? Honestly, I can't see in this light. Maybe I can figure this out. Where's the flashlight? I don't know where it is. What? Well, maybe I could take a picture of it and blow it up. Open Sesame. Fuck me. I do not want to be connected to iTunes. Jesus, fuck. Where? Just fucking give me my fucking picture, god damn it. Jesus. Fuck. Just fuck. God damn it. Just give me a fucking picture, okay? I don't want fucking albums. I just want the last fucking picture I took. Oh my god. Jesus. Fuck me. I don't want to sign into iTunes. I don't want to see every picture I ever took. I just want the picture I just took. Oh my fuck. Come on. Jesus. Fuck. Give me a fuck. Take another fucking picture. If you can't find that one, God. Jesus. Fuck. We just have the picture I took. What the fuck? Give me the fucking picture I took. Jesus. Recent. It's not there. Is this because I'm not paying Mac to back up my pictures on the cloud that I don't want? That I don't get to store any pictures on this either? Is that how that works? Oh my fuck. What's my fucking phone for? You're designing something artificial to look at, then you're parsing parts, and you're charging me for every fucking hyphenated piece. I'm gonna stop that video because it went to black, and I'm gonna start it again while I go find a flashlight or something.